All right, hello everyone. We're welcome to a special stream where I do interviews on different people involving film. Last week I did one with Tori Haas, who was a director. I've done one with another director. Wait, did I say Tori? I meant Jay Holloway. Tori Haas was a couple weeks ago, and I've done an actor, Dylan Scatina. But here we have today a sound designer, Harper Harris. Harper W. Harris. Welcome.
Hey, yeah, thanks for having me, Flint.
All right. So we're just going to jump right into it. Basically, he does sound design. Tell us a little bit about yourself
Sure.
and what that actually is.
Yeah. So yeah, I've been working in sound for, full time for like 5 years now. I quit my day job 5 years ago, but I've been doing it off and on throughout the last probably 10 years. So I do production sound where I'm on set recording sound, like, putting mics on actors and holding the boom pole up. I've been doing that as well as post production sound. So that's where I'm doing the sound design. So that's like, that's kind of like a big umbrella term, but really it's a bunch of different things like doing editing dialogue for movies and video, doing sound effects editing. So that's why I've got like a big library of sound effects to add to videos.
Yeah.
Yeah, recording Foley. So that's doing like footsteps and movement and stuff like that that you perform while you're watching the movie. And mixing. So yeah, just putting that all together. So I've been doing that. I do it for all kinds of projects, from movies to TV shows. I haven't done any video games yet, which I'd really like to. That's a whole different beast. But
Ooh,
all kinds of corporate and commercial kind of stuff. So, and podcasts, yeah, all over the place.
that's awesome. So why choose sound design?
Yeah, so I kind of got into it. It kind of just fell into place for me because in high school, so I've always been a musician. I've played drums for a long time. And in high school, I was in a band, and I just kind of by default ended up being the guy who had to figure out how we were going to record stuff. So I started kind of getting into how to do digital recordings and how to mix and stuff like that. Just kind of playing around with it on my own. And that was just kind of something I did for fun. And then I went to college, went to Georgia State, and studied film. And like probably most film students at the time, I was like, oh, I'll be a director when I get out of college. Like, I'll be a director or an editor. Like, everybody thinks they're going to be a director and
That's
editor. And,
true.
you know, it works out for some people, and for some people, that's not the right fit. And I don't think it would have been a good fit for me. But towards the end of college, I took a class on sound for film, and it really just clicked for me. It was like, oh, this takes all that love of, like, mixing and playing with sound and music, and combines that with my love of movies in a way that I had never really even considered that I could make a career out of. So that's kind of how I got into it. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, it just works out perfectly for me. Sound. I'm really passionate about sound. I'm really, I love music and sound effects and stuff, and I've always loved that stuff in movies. So being able to work on it and be really creative with that is really exciting. It's really fun, and you get to work with all kinds of cool people.
That's awesome. I want to make sure people know this or clarify this. There are sound designers and there are basically people who make music, like the composers, and they are
Yeah.
completely separate, technically, entities in the sound field.
Yeah, that's very true, and and you'd be surprised how many people don't know that for sure. Even working professionally, I have lots of times where people will be like, "Okay, so the movie's ready to mix. So when do you think you'll have the music ready?" And I'm like, unless you want like just drums on the score, like, yeah, that's not something I really do professionally.
Exactly.
Yeah.
uh, how did you get into sound design? Well, you kind of actually talked about this. Sorry, wrong question.
No, it's okay.
Who inspires you?
Man, there's a lot of people. There are a lot of great sound designers and sound people out there. But I was thinking about it, and there's one guy that is out there working now named Graham Resnick. So he does the sound design for all of Ty West's movies, or T West. I always forget how you pronounce it, but the guy who came out with X and Pearl this year. But he's done a lot of great movies that I really love. House of the Devil in particular.
Okay.
He's been his sound designer for like 10 or 15 years and does really cool work. And then has branched out of that himself and has started kind of directing some stuff. And I don't know if you've ever played the game Until Dawn, but
Have not.
he co-wrote the script for that, which is really, when I found that out, I was like, oh, this sound designer that I like co-wrote the script to this game I really love. So
That's
that was kind of a
awesome.
cool surprise. So he inspires me in how he's a great sound designer, but also has kind of branched out and started doing other stuff in the film industry. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Tell us a little bit about some of your projects you've done.
Sure. So yeah, I'm really lucky to have gotten to work on a lot of really cool things. So I mean, an easy place to start is like the stuff I've worked on with you and with some of the other kind of Monster Buster crew, but
Yeah.
like Dead by Midnight and Dead by Midnight 2, and we're currently working on another one called Spooked. So these are like all horror movies that have been super fun to work on, and it's where I've met some really good friends and stuff. So that's been really cool.
Uh-huh.
But some other interesting stuff. One of my favorite projects I got to work on is the Creepshow series for Shudder.
I saw that because
Yeah.
you have like a website, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I saw
HarperWharris.com.
yes. And I saw some of that like in Creepshows was on there. Do you work with Viola Davis?
I have, yeah, I did. I got to meet her one time. That wasn't for Creepshow. That was just for this like, I don't even know what it was. It was some kind of like uh commercial, not commercial, but like a charity or something that she was doing, and it was just an interview. Somebody was interviewing her, and yes, that was really cool. I got to meet her. That's probably the highest profile person I've ever got to.
I think she's amazing.
And put a mic on for sure.
That's awesome. Go back into Creepshow. Did you actually work with Nicotero?
I met him once, and you know, it's funny. Everybody always asks me that, and it's like I met him once at the studio, but otherwise, my work was all like on the back end. I was doing Foley and sound effects editing for the show. So I was mostly working with the mixer for the show, and the guys like doing the finishing sound on it.
Yeah.
So I met Nicotero, but I didn't really get to work directly with him. But yeah, for all three of the seasons that are currently out and the Christmas special, I did Foley and sound effects for all that stuff, and that was a blast because that's like perfectly in my wheelhouse, getting to make like gross horror, creepy sounds and stuff.
That'd be awesome.
A ton of fun. Yeah, but yeah, I work on all kinds of stuff, man. Over the last year and a half or two, I've worked on a whole bunch of kind of higher profile podcasts for iHeartRadio and School of Humans. So these are shows that are like really like highly produced with a bunch of like actors playing characters, and kind of like radio drama style stuff. So that's been really interesting. That's a different kind of project.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is really cool. It's really interesting. And then the other big thing over the last couple of years, I've worked on a ton of Hallmark and Lifetime movies, which is really interesting because boy, they are so ridiculous. They're so over the top, but that can be a whole lot of fun. I've enjoyed working on those.
No, I think that's like such a, I'm saying easy field, but like there's always those type of movies being filmed.
There's so many. You have no idea. I mean, I worked on like 5 this year, and I mean that's only like a fraction of what they said. They have like a new one every week. It's crazy.
Exactly. That's awesome. That'd be fun.
Yeah.
So tell us about the best moments on set and the hardest moments on set.
Sure. I mean, the best moments are always like to me when you get to work with people you really are friends with. So like, I mean, getting to work on the Dead by Midnight movies and stuff. I know everybody that's on the crew, and I've worked with them all for now like 4 or 5 years, really.
Yeah.
And so getting to work on those movies is always a blast. And I mean, there's too many funny moments I can think of, particularly with your previous guests. Tori and Jay are both a ton of fun to hang around with, and Jay in particular is anytime working with Jay is a blast.
It really is.
Directing something especially is just so insane. I mean, when we did Gut Cruncher for Dead by Midnight 2, we're working with like out in the boonies at this big wrestling I don't even know what you call it, like a big gym. And there's like a guy in blue monster makeup doing wrestling moves and stuff, and it was just like totally wild and stuff. I have so many funny videos and stuff from that. So that was a really, any of those times are always the best times on sets when you get to have a lot of fun.
Yes. Actually, this brings up a question. So you obviously do audio, you hear audio, you work, like behind the scenes with audio. Is there stuff that you wish you could put on in a film, but this can't be, or something that you would want to put in a documentary because it doesn't obviously fit the stuff?
Like, you mean like particular sound effects or something?
Sound effects, conversations, because you have access to all that.
Behind the scenes,
yes.
That doesn't make it in.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about that. It's just I always want to go like over the top with the sound design and do like one of my favorite things is getting able to do being able to do like cartoony and really big fantasy sound effects and stuff. And I mean, obviously, when we talk about Heroes of Time, we'll talk more about that. But
Yeah.
like getting to do that kind of like over the top sound design rather than just like movies that take place in the real world and have pretty like down to earth, like that's fun to work on and that has its own challenges and opportunities and stuff. But when you get to work on something that's really like over the top and you can put in like I have the Hanna-Barbera sound effects library, which is like all those classic cartoon sound effects.
Yes.
I love that stuff, 'cause
Jasper
we're both
probably got
watching
to
that.
hit some of that.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons Dead by Midnight 2 is one of my favorite things I've ever worked on sound design wise, just because I got to do, with Jasper, I got to do like super cartoony sound effects. And then with Here's a Time, it was like all this like fantasy and swords and magic and stuff.
Yeah.
And then,
Gut Cruncher.
with Gut Cruncher, we got to do like wrestling, like fighting and wrestling sounds. Like it was every segment was like a totally different challenge, which was really fun to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I guess hardest moments. I don't know. I'd be curious. I didn't watch all of Tori's interview, but I'd be interested to see if he said the same thing. But he and I were both on this shoot in Miami that ended up just being like a total disaster. Where we were, I couldn't even tell you what it was for because it was so just like it never came about. It never actually ended up happening. But we were supposed to interview all these celebrities, and like none of them like showed up when we were supposed to interview them. So we'd just be like sitting there for hours doing nothing, and it was just like everything that could go wrong went wrong on that shoot. Like we got stuck in Miami for like an extra 6 hours because we thought we were supposed to fly home, but then we were like, oh, Jamie Foxx is gonna come for the interview. So
Jamie Foxx, that would have been.
Yeah, that would have been very cool. He didn't show up. The only person we did end up interviewing was Guy Fieri, who was very cool. I mean, he was really nice, but it was like the whole thing was just like a total waste of time. So I mean, it's really funny now looking back at it. At the time, it was because we were like standing out in like 100-degree weather in Miami, waiting for people, and nothing was going on. So that was definitely a rough one.
What was that for?
Man, it was a friend. So Tony, it was a friend of his. I can't remember the guy's name, or maybe I shouldn't say his name. But it was for a company he was trying to found that had something to do with crypto and cryptocurrency, and just like there just wasn't a lot of like planning behind it. Like we thought there was like a lot of like a schedule, and this is who we're supposed to interview here, and it was really a lot more informal than we realized. And so when we got there, we're like, oh, none of these people know that we're supposed to be interviewing them, and like we're not paying them to come do these interviews or anything. It was like,
of course, I'm not going to come. Yeah, yes, it sounds like a mess. Wow.
Yeah.
They bring up, and unfortunately, you weren't around on Monster Buster at the time, but Invasion of the Undead or Neon Dead.
Yeah.
Both Dylan and Tori brought this up, and there was one day that was particularly hard on it where we filmed for like I want to say it was like 22 hours. It was a long.
Oh my God. Wow.
And people were dying of food poisoning because something that everyone ate was just killing everyone. So
that's pretty bad.
And I remember it being bad, but to me it wasn't that bad. And it's interesting seeing like Tori and Dylan's point of view, because Dylan being a performer or an actor, he had a different perspective. It was very long, and he pushed through it, and he loved still doing it, but it was long and hard. While Tori was like, I just need to push through this. It wasn't that bad to me, just because he's the captain of the ship. If he goes down, the ship goes down, and he just had the mentality that we're just going to push through all the way through, and it wasn't that bad to him.
Yeah, that is funny. And man, I should mention that it's Invasion of the Undead, or the Neon Dead, as I think they changed the name to. Is that's how I met all of you guys. Really, is
that's awesome.
Somehow I had heard about the movie. I can't remember where. I might have just seen it at Videodrome, which is the video rental store in Atlanta. I think I saw it there, and I was like, oh, it's a local horror movie. I want to check this out. And I watched it, and I was like, oh, that was really cool.
Yeah.
And I emailed Tori just kind of, out of the blue, and was like, hey, I really like the movie. I'm trying to break into doing sound if you ever need somebody.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
It just happened to be around that time that I can't remember his name, but one of the other guys who was normally doing sound for y'all was
Quinn Tran. Is it him?
Yes. Yeah. Because I know Sean did sound too, but yeah, Quinn was, I think, moving to California or something.
Do you know Quinn?
Like perfect timing. I've never met him, but no, I don't think I actually have. But yeah, it was just funny the timing that worked out. It's like he was leaving right around that time, so Tori was like, we actually need somebody like in a couple of weeks. And so I started working with Tori on some projects, and that's how I got brought on and met you and met Jay and Tony and all those guys.
So that's awesome.
That movie was kind of the connection that how I met everybody, which is really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Me and Quinn go way back because we used to work in retail together, and that's how he kind of got involved with Tori. And I loved Quinn, and he was very passionate about also sound design. So when we were losing him, I was like, oh man, I hope someone else, has that drive, that passion. And so I was very happy when you came aboard.
Yeah, I was glad to do it, man. I've worked on tons of projects between all of you guys over the last couple of years, and I mean, it's been not only been a really good thing for my career to be able to work on that stuff, but I've met a lot of people that have become good friends of mine. So I'm really thankful for that. It was really cool.
That's awesome. All right, so we're gonna dive into something I call quick 20 questions, where I fire out 20 questions at you, and you just answer off the top of your head.
All right.
What I give out. So, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. Favorite color?
Gray.
Oh. Favorite food?
Sesame chicken.
Nice. Favorite candy?
Skittles.
Favorite music?
I like a lot of prog rock and doom metal. I like a whole lot of kinds of music, but yeah, I'd say prog rock and doom metal are kind of my two go-tos.
Nice. Favorite game?
Super Mario RPG, all-time favorite.
Oh, that's such a good game.
I love that game.
It is. Favorite movie?
Vertigo.
Oh.
Yeah, Hitchcock movie. Love that one.
Oh, that's nice. Favorite show?
It's tough because I want to. My go-to is always to say The Simpsons, but I have to qualify that and say the first 10 seasons.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Favorite actor or actress?
Oh man, there's a lot I really like. I really like Rachel Weisz. She's in a lot of really good stuff, and I think she does comedy and drama and horror and stuff just as well. So I really like her.
Oh, awesome. Favorite historical figure?
Let's see. Oh man, this is gonna sound ridiculous because, but I was thinking about it with the actor. I'm gonna say Christopher Lee.
Nice.
he's historical. He's not around anymore. Plus he was supposedly the inspiration for James Bond. So I'm gonna say he's historical.
Oh, awesome. No, that's fair. I like that. Yeah. Also, quick pause. Frostbringer 3478. Welcome to chat. Okay.
Yeah.
Chicken or beef?
Chicken.
Nice. Mountains or ocean?
Mountain, I think.
Nice. Samurai or ninja?
Samurai. I'm a Kurosawa movie guy, so
nice.
Yeah, gotta go samurai.
Heck yeah. Donuts or ice cream?
Ooh, can I say both?
Sure. No one's ever done that, so that's fair.
Yeah, let's go. If I could do that, I'll go with both. I like both.
Nice. Dinosaurs or aliens?
Probably dinosaurs.
Boobs or butts?
I think this one I have to go both.
That's also fair.
How could you choose?
Why is the sky blue?
I think it's a reflection of the ocean or something like that.
I like that. Why is candy so good?
Oh, well, precious sugar. It's sugar's so good. I can't get enough.
Why are people humans? Me being a Foxarian needs to know this.
Okay, all right. I don't know. I guess we're just lucky that way.
Why are we so tiny but so big?
Let's see. Well, I don't know about the tiny part. We're so big because we eat fast food way too much.
And the last question, why are you amazing?
Well, that's a very nice question to ask. I think I'm an interesting guy at least, but yeah, that's very nice.
Oh,
I don't know.
no, I like that. All right. So that's enough of the 20 questions. We're going to go back
Cool.
to, I love that portion. We're going to go back to the interview. So is there anyone you directly look up to, whether it be family, industry, or
Sure, sure. I mean, man, that's a hard one because there's a lot of people, honestly, and really, I mean, thinking about people I look up to or people who like I admire or like who inspire me too, or like honestly, it's just kind of anybody that I work with that I enjoy working with. Like, I get to work with people all the time that are like super creative and come up with this stuff and work really hard and that's super really really inspiring to me. And so I really I look up to my peers, I guess, in a lot of ways. Like it's getting to work with really cool people is inspiring and motivating. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Like, if you could work with any actor, who would it be?
Oh yeah, I had to really think about this one because that's really hard. It's a lot. But I was trying to get somebody who I get the most bang for my buck, I guess. And I'm gonna say Brad Dorff because I'm a huge Chucky fan, and so he's the voice of Chucky, but he's also been in tons of horror movies and. He's in Lord of the Rings, which I'm a huge J.R. Tolkien Middle Earth nerd.
Uh-huh.
So he's been in tons of stuff that I really like, and he seems like a really fun person to work with. I met him at DragonCon a long time ago, and he was super nice. But yeah, I'd love to work with him. I think that'd be super fun.
Oh, that's awesome. It's funny. I watched something recently that showed the Chucky voice, and Mark Hamill is doing the new Chucky, which I was like,
he did, yeah.
I thought he did the old, and I was like, there's no way. And I was like, oh, they're doing a remake. Okay, this makes sense.
Yeah, he was in the remake. The remake's not very good, but I love Mark Hamill, so I love when he gets to do a voice. I was watching that new Sandman show on Netflix the other day, and his voice popped up, and I was like, "It's Mark Hamill."
I heard Sandman's really good. I haven't seen it, but
it's great. I'm way late to the party too, and we just started watching it like last weekend or something. It's great. It's really good.
yeah, it's something I need to watch on my back burner list. Also, another fun fact: Creepy Dolls has this is the first one. Has Chaz, who is the original design, the Hasbro design that was inspired to make the Chucky doll.
Really? I
Yeah.
didn't know that. That's cool.
And I think that's just really, really neat. That we have this, or that
cool
that I have that. Yeah, because I also have like the line of those Hasbro dolls, and I have another one named Buddy. It's just neat, and they're like all haunted dolls. Pretty creepy, but awesome.
Yeah, very. Well, that's really cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Let's see. So this is more on life questions, but what do you like in life?
What do I like in life? Yeah, I mean, outside of work, I have a lot of like hobbies and stuff. I'm a big comic book collector, so I've been reading comics and collecting them for I don't know, 10 or 15 years now. So I've got tons and tons of comics. I still go to the shop every Wednesday. I mentioned like I'm a musician, so I play drums. I play drums in a band, and
Ooh, that's awesome.
we're all adults, and half our band members have kids, so it's like very hard to schedule the time to
I
practice
bet.
anymore. But when we do, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy that. I mean, and music in general, I love listening to music and finding new stuff for my favorite bands and that kind of thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I like hiking and camping. I read a lot of books. I've got more hobbies than my life has time or space for, for sure.
Yeah. No, it's true. What silly things make you happy?
Well, I'm gonna say the silliest thing that makes me really happy is Godzilla movies. Everything Godzilla.
I love Godzilla.
I'm actually currently wearing my Hedora T-shirt.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I love Godzilla and all the kaiju stuff, man. I love those movies, and I just on Black Friday I just bought a Blu-ray of the Ultraman show, the first season of the Ultraman TV show from the '60s, and I started watching that, and it's so ridiculous, but it's a lot of fun. Like, those are right up my alley, so I love that stuff. I couldn't tell you why, but it's just a lot of fun.
No, it has its own charm to it. Did you ever play? I want to say this is Nintendo or Super Nintendo. The Godzilla game. I don't know how many Godzilla games, by the way, there are. But I know old school.
There's a lot, I think. The only one I ever played that I actually got really into in like middle school or something was it was on GameCube, I think. I want to say it was called Godzilla Destroy All Monsters.
Uh-huh.
It was like a fighting game where you and somebody else pick different kaiju and you fight and you destroy a city and fight each other.
Oh, so, wow.
That might have been like my first introduction to a lot of those characters and stuff. But yeah, I think that's the only one I've ever played, really.
Huh. Yeah, I think the one I'm thinking of is there's like points, like you'd go to the spot and you'd have to fight this boss, and then you go to the next spot and you have to fight that boss with Godzilla, and they brought upon like all the Godzilla monsters that were ever made. But I cannot remember the name.
Well, now I've like collected all the Godzilla movies now, so maybe that's my next step. I need to start collecting all the old games.
Oh yeah, exactly. So first impression on a Monster Buster project, because obviously you talked about how you got in, which I didn't even know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it's funny. My first thing, I don't know if it's technically Monster Buster or not, but Tori and Nick, he's the cinematographer for a lot of projects. Tori and Nick and I did a thing for Stone Mountain where we filmed like this cowboy video that they'd show on the train, like on the TV screens on the train at Stone Mountain. That was the first thing, but I don't know if that's really Monster Buster.
Wait, did you do it with Andrew Puckett?
No, he wasn't. This was all like it was the people that worked at Stone Mountain.
Oh, okay. Andrew Puckett did something at Stone Mountain where he was like playing an elf. I think he was on a train, or you'd be on a train and you would see this. I can't remember, but anyway, I thought that was related.
It doesn't surprise me, but no, that wasn't the one I worked on. But no, I was gonna say honestly I would count my first Monster Buster official kind of thing as Creepy Dolls, really, because at that point I knew Tori and I had met Nick once, but I had never met you, and I had never met Tony or Kevin or any of the other folks on the regular crew. It was funny, man. It was like I was pretty fresh to the industry too, so I didn't really know what was normal or what was not. But I was like, man, this Jay guy is crazy. That was probably my first impression. Was like, wow, this is just so weird. But it was so much fun, man. It was like because it was in October, so it was like getting ready for Halloween and stuff, and we're shooting like fog and colored lights and all these creepy possessed dolls and stuff. It was so much fun. Like that was the big takeaway for me. Was just like this. I want to be doing this every October. Like this is what I want to do to celebrate Halloween. Is like shooting these movies because it was a blast.
I would love doing that too. Like every Halloween.
Yeah.
Best quote on set, which I feel like it's going to be a Jay quote, but.
No, yeah, I was thinking about it, and yeah, I have a lot of good ones. I mean, I don't know when Jay was on, did he talk about all his nicknames?
Yes.
Because that's what, I don't know if that's my favorite quote, but I do love that our crew, Jay has given everybody on the crew a nickname, and mine was the watercolor werewolf, which I really like. But I thought a really funny quote from from last year recently was from Nick, who I just mentioned. So we were shooting a scene for Spooked, and it was supposed to be like a like the scene is like somebody's filming themselves with their phone, like they're doing like a selfie cam kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so Nick had to like hold the camera and move with the actress, walk with her, and we do it once, and Tony, who was directing it, is like, did it look good? And Nick goes, well, it's not supposed to look good, is it? And that was like the funniest thing. We were all like, yeah, it should look good, dude. You're the cinematographer. He did that like it's not, it's supposed to look like the actress is filming, not me. But yeah, it was really funny because we were all just like, Nick needs to put that on a T-shirt. It doesn't look good.
I remember on my set, Tori brought this up. So I'm describing like an MMO fight to like the whole crew, and And once I'm done, like it's like a 5 minute, breakdown of the scene and the details of the fight. And then Nick was like, "So what's the first shot?"
Yeah. So what are we shooting?
Yeah.
That was really hilarious because you were basically reenacting 3 different characters doing this fight. You were like running back and forth, like playing all of the characters.
Yes.
And we were just like, wow, this is so much. It was great. I'm so glad the actors actually knew what they were all supposed to do because it was complicated.
Yes,
yeah,
it was.
I remember Nick being like, so what's the next shot? I also thought about I can't remember whose weapon it was, but when you gave somebody a sword when we were doing Here's the Time, and you were like, be careful, it's really, really sharp. It's like, wow, this set is wild.
That is true. I forgot that was that sword too. I was thinking it was a different sword. You're absolutely right. I think you're
a lot of fun, though.
You were you were the one who brought up. So in both Creepy Dolls and Here Was a Time, I say a line in both of them about smell. I just found it really funny because I was like, oh yeah, I guess I do have it in both movies.
Yeah, it's like your trademark.
Exactly, exactly.
None of us really realized it until I was like, isn't that line in Creepy Dolls too? Yeah, what's that smell or whatever? Yeah.
Exactly.
That's funny.
It is. So is sound design hard on horror films? If not, what type of project is hard on making sound design?
Yeah, I mean, horror films definitely can be hard. I mean, any kind of movie can have challenges. Like, man, I'll say like last year I did. So I've done 2 of these. Do you remember, or you wouldn't remember, but have you ever heard of that show, The Waltons, from like I think it was on in like the 70s and 80s?
Not sure. It may ring a bell.
A wholesome show about this family that like lives up in the Appalachian Mountains and takes place in like the 1920s. But anyways, they made 2 like TV movies about like remakes of it. One they just did a Thanksgiving one that just came out like last week or whatever. But the first one we did last year for Christmas, they when we were working on it, I had to do all the background, so I did all the like. Which, on most movies, that's like, like on Creepy Dolls, I'm doing like room tones for the backgrounds when they're outside, like you hear like crickets if it's at night, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But for this movie, they were like, we want to be really accurate to where this takes place. So it takes place in West Virginia in the winter, in like on the mountains. And they were like, here's a list of birds that you're allowed to put in the background.
Oh, wow.
And so it was like really intense. It was really challenging because I had to like do all this research, as like find recordings of because like I don't have, I couldn't go out and record this stuff, but I could find recordings. I found stuff with like the National Park Service had like sound recordings, and I just looked all over the place and found recordings of birds and built these backgrounds to sound like genuinely what they would sound like in that place at that time of year. And so that was really cool because it was a lot of work, but it turned out sounding great because it sounded much more realistic than just like generic birds or whatever. So that was really cool. That was definitely one of the most challenging things. But horror definitely can be challenging because I mean, if you ever watch a horror movie and you mute it and you just watch it with no sound, like it's not scary anymore. Like a lot of the scares come from like the big like jump scares come from like the big sound that happens when that happens. It makes you jump out of your seat, or like the tension a lot of times either comes from the music or from like creepy sound design and stuff. So sound design is really important in horror movies. And so I wouldn't say it's hard, but it's definitely, it requires a lot of work for sure. Because you have to be really careful that you're like not breaking the mood and like breaking the tension, or that you're building up when you're supposed to be building up the tension and stuff. So it definitely can be really challenging, but it's definitely my favorite kind of sound design to do because it's, I mean, like I said, like your average everyday stuff. I mean, even like that Waltons movie, outside of the backgrounds, everything else is pretty typical stuff. It's doors and footsteps and cars and that kind of stuff, which is cool, but it's not like, it's different when you're working on a movie that has like monsters that need like roars and footsteps and cartoon characters and swords and magic, and like all that stuff lets you be really much more creative. So
exactly.
It's a lot more work, but it's definitely more fun.
That makes a lot of sense. This is like more of a technical question, but this kind of goes, I guess, in the movie field technically too, or music. when you're getting copyrights, like are the things you're not allowed to do, or you could just grab from like a certain file because these are okay to use these sound effects, versus there are maybe like stuff that are impossible to, or not impossible, but have like legal ramifications if you use them.
Sure. Yeah, no, I run into that all the time. It's one of the things we have to be really careful with, particularly for like those Hallmark movies where they get shown on the air.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be really careful about that, because if you use something that you don't have the right to use, then you can get sued. I mean, it wouldn't be me; it'd be the production company or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would be careful, so I'm not putting them in that position.
Right.
So a lot of times, like the editors of the movie, like they'll put in temporary sound effects, and a lot of times it's stuff that they just like ripped off of YouTube or found online or whatever, that really they don't have the rights to use, but it's just there temporarily to give you an idea of like what they're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to be really careful in those cases to make sure that stuff doesn't get used, and that I'm kind of recreating it with other sound effects, like something similar. The big one that we have to worry about all the time now is smartphone ringtones. Like,
Oh.
yeah, a lot of those are copyrighted, and like there's all these weird rules about it. Like with Apple stuff, like with iPhone, if you show an iPhone, like you see that it's an iPhone, it has an iPhone label,
Yeah.
like you have to use iPhone sounds. Like if it's just a generic smartphone, you can do whatever. But if it's an iPhone, you have to use the iPhone sounds, and you have to make sure they're the most recent versions of them, which they change all the time. And you can't like if you're using iPhone sounds and stuff, you can't have the character say like, "Oh, like I hate this iPhone." They can't say anything bad about like the brand or whatever. So there's all kinds of weird rules and stuff. And yeah, you run into that with music too. And yeah, it's funny. There's a crew that I work with a lot who we've done a lot of commercials for HelloFresh, the meal company.
Yeah.
And this was not one that I worked on, but another one they had told me about that. They made a commercial, and it was supposed to only be shown like on the web, like on YouTube ads and stuff.
Yeah.
And so they only paid for a license for the music for web. Like there's different kinds of licenses and stuff. Like they didn't pay for a license to show it on TV. And HelloFresh didn't realize that, or forgot, or whatever, and they showed it like during the Super Bowl. And so immediately the band that that this music was from, they contacted them. They're like, "Hey, you owe us a lot of money because you showed this. You did not pay to use our song on this Super Bowl commercial." And
wow.
they made they got paid like $250,000 or something crazy, because they didn't pay attention to the rights. So you do have to be really careful with that stuff, because they can get you in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. No, I always am scared about stuff like that, just because you may not even realize you're getting into trouble, if you're not careful.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about Heroes of Time, your experiences on that, and we could even bring in Creepy Dolls, because technically you worked on both and I worked on both.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they were both really fun and interesting to work on, for sure. I mean, I have all kinds of funny and fun memories from Creepy Dolls, just like from so there was a room full of like thousands of haunted and creepy dolls, right?
Yes.
And so that was really fun. And I remember somebody, I think I can't remember who it was. Somebody like tricked us into going in there, and then like pretended like the door shut on its own, and like
really?
or whatever. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who did that. But anyways,
like it was Jay or
really
Tony.
Funny, and yeah, probably. But like, yeah, doing all the scene where we had to blow up the doll was really fun.
Man, that was so cool.
From like half a mile away or whatever. That was really fun.
Yeah, that's tricky too, just because like a sound effect like that is like really, really loud. Even from how far we were, it was, so getting something like that to sound accurate, I feel like is a challenging in its part in itself.
For sure, yeah, and I think I'd have to go back and look because it's been so long now. But I think I used some of that recording, because I actually did record sound and we blew the stuff up. I used part of that, and then I added in some other sound effects, probably of like a good explosion kind of sounds come from like mortar shells and stuff like that. So I've got some sound libraries that have military and bombs and stuff like that. So I've probably augmented it with some of that. But man, Heroes of Time was a trip, because that was that was
I
a
love it.
really interesting one because I vividly remember the first day of shooting when we got there, and the scene's supposed to take place in like a dungeon,
Yeah.
and we get there and
Oh my god.
you're like, yeah, here's the dungeon, and it's like this garage full of stuff. And so we're like, oh, okay, I guess I think we need to move all this out. So
Yes. Yes.
we had to start the day moving stuff out, and it was like that was a hard day, man, because
It really was.
I think it was in the summer. It was pretty hot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I was, we're working outside in the woods and
Hey, Sky
stuff,
Shards.
and so it's definitely, yeah.
Sorry.
So,
That was a chat.
oh, sorry.
No.
Um, yeah, so yeah, it was super hot outside, and but it was really fun, man, because all the actors had their like big costumes on and stuff. Andrew had like his giant armor plate on and
Yes.
stuff. That was really cool. Um, and yeah, so figuring out, one of the hardest parts of my job on set is one of the things that you have to really learn and just do trial and error and get better at is putting microphones, lavalier microphones, on the actors. And it's never the same. Like there's always a different way to do it that might sound better. And so particularly on something like Here Is a Time where like everybody's wearing like really different and elaborate costumes and stuff, you really have to figure out like where you can put the mic where it's going to sound good and not be like rubbing against their clothes or their costume and stuff. So I remember like Andrew's, his armor had like this big like plate, like pointed plate at the front, which was really worked out perfectly because it was hollow on the inside and I could put the mic like right here, so it was like right in front of his mouth. So that worked out, but like figuring out how to put them on like a fancy dress or like different any kinds of different costumes. Like there's always a challenge of figuring out how to put the microphone on that's going to
Yes.
sound good, and so that was cool. But yeah, I just remember that was a really fun couple of days shooting that, and I remember thinking like. And that was the other thing too, is like all our backgrounds. It's like I said, like it was like a garage that was like the dungeon, and like
Yes.
the front of just like a house was like the entrance to the castle.
Yeah.
And it's
God.
like man, how's this? It was like hard to imagine like how's this gonna work? But then when it's all said and done and the effects are done, like it looks great. It looks really cool.
Yes. Yes.
It turned out so good. So that was it was one of those things where you're on set and you're like, man, I hope this works. But
Yep.
Luckily the folks that did all the special effects and stuff did a great job.
They really
Really
did.
cool.
I think if I real fast. Sky Sharder. Does it sound a little bit better? I know. Yeah. They said that your audio is just a little low. This is more on my my. This is not you. This is me. I need to fix this a little bit better, but hopefully I brought it up. I have like a Go XLR, and that goes through Discord, and it may be a little off some of the audio, but
okay.
But yeah, I wish I used green screen a little bit more. I think that would have helped a little bit, well, a lot on like some of the visual effects crew, because some of that was freaking challenging on set. Like you say, the entrance.
I mean, it's a trade-off, right? Because it's like with green screen, it might be easier to animate, but then at the same time, the actors don't have anything to act against.
Exactly.
Like, this house, like they had a real door, they had a real like stairway, and so there's advantages to it too. But yeah.
No, yeah, you're, and you're right. Like this was the first film where I had to rely on imagination. A lot of it actually was with Tori, guiding me on this the visual effects or the special effects, because I'm not used to doing that. I'm just used to like acting with everything on set. Creepy Dolls was all on set.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to think, like, I don't think Creepy Dolls had any like extra kind of like visual effects that we had to add, really, did it?
I don't think so. Yeah, I mean, it was. I mean, like, obviously there's things like the glass, like you had to add, like glass stuff when Andrew jumped out of the glass or our window.
That was a fun thing too.
Yeah, and obviously we had like originally a setup for it, but we're like, no, this is too dangerous. Maybe too much money. Let's just throw some glass. And hopefully this comes out correctly. And obviously a lot of that relied on the sound.
That's true. Yeah, that actually worked out well. That's a funny memory from that too. That was the same day we did the doll explosion stuff. And I remember we had the camera set up, and basically Andrew would jump over the camera And then I think I was helping. It was like me and Jay or somebody. We had like these pieces of plexiglass that were like fake glass, and we would throw them in front of the camera at the same
Exactly.
time Andrew jumped.
Exactly.
But yeah, between that, like just kind of DIY glass thing, between that and adding the sound effect of the glass, like it's pretty believable when you watch it. Like it works.
Yes, it does. But yeah, I know this is like one of my favorite things that I got the film, and it was on Creepy Dolls. And I knew a lot of this was going to rely on the sound designer or you. Was the introduction to each of the characters, where it's like Ben, Johnson, they have like, you like zoom in on like an item, like opening up the can or the apple eating.
Yeah, it's very like Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead kind of
style. Exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was a lot of fun to watch that unfold.
Yeah, I think that was like the very first thing we shot, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that being like, wow, this is so. They're like, we don't need sound for this, so I was just kind of hanging around watching. But it was like, I think it was Andrew that like opened the soda.
Oh
like,
yeah,
everywhere in slow motion. So I was like, oh, this is
fun. But going back to Hero of the Time too, like, it relied on the visual effects and the sound. Like, I mean, that's what pretty much made the movie in a lot of ways. Obviously, like acting and the camera and all that. But like, yeah. But I you can't see any of that when you're editing it until I give it to you and you bring it back to me, and I'm like, man, that came out way better than I was hoping.
That was a ton of fun, and that's one of my favorite things. I like to use that as a like a portfolio piece to show people, because it was really challenging and really fun to kind of come up with like each of the characters had different magic kind of skill sets or classes, I guess. And so I was like, I really want to make sure they each kind of sound unique. So it's like, just because two characters have like a sword, like they shouldn't sound the same. Like,
exactly,
this one is more like an air attack, and this one's more like a water attack or fire. So trying to kind of make them all sound unique was a really fun challenge. It was really fun to work on. And yeah, those couple big fight scenes in the short definitely took a lot of work, but it was really rewarding. It was really fun to do. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. Kino says that sound design really carries the movies, which is true. I mean, you have lighting and sound.
Yeah,
I feel like
George Lucas always says it's half the picture.
Yes. Yes. I can only imagine all the things involved in making convincing sound effects. Sky Shard says.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of my stuff comes from libraries. Like, there are people who are really talented sound effects creators who sell, who make and sell their own sound effects. So I buy those regularly, because it's anytime there's something I might need, I love to pick that stuff up and use it. But when I can, I do love trying to make my own stuff when I can, and so or when we're on set too. I try to capture as much stuff on set if it's applicable. Like, Here's a Time, I don't know that there was a lot of that for Here's a Time, but like for something like Gut Cruncher, where we were doing the wrestling moves, like when people are really getting slammed onto the mat, like I want to use that real sound, and I might like add something to it to make it sound bigger or whatever, but it's hard to beat the real deal. So, designing stuff from scratch is a really cool challenge, and it's fun to do. But yeah, a lot of the time I rely on people more talented than myself. I just pull it all together.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. So we're down to the last part. So the chat could ask any questions to Harper here. And for you, Harper, if you have any questions for me, shoot.
Yeah. Well, I have one question for you. Are there plans for a Heroes of Time 2 or a Creepy Dolls 2 or
yes.
a new movie in general?
Yes. So me and Dylan are wanting to make Heroes of Time a web series, like 6 episodes.
Cool.
Maybe more, but we narrowed it down to 6 episodes for the first season, and we want to make multiple seasons. Obviously, we have to see how season 1 goes, but there's a lot of lore, like world building lore, that I want to take advantage of, especially with like how we ended Heroes of Time. There's a talk about like there's these 10 powerful fighters. Dive more into that. What happens to Zeke, and a lot of the other characters. So yeah, absolutely. Like, that is a huge passion that I want to try to do. I just have to get the script right, because it's a lot of work, obviously, making a series.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. Any other questions?
That was my big one. Because I just hope we get a chance to work together on something again soon. It's always a lot of fun.
Yeah. This is brought up. It's probably not going to happen, but because me and Dylan work together, we're like, it would be fun if we did a Christmas special. Because I don't think we've ever done a Christmas special. It's so random, but I love Christmas. It could be horror related still, or it just could be wholesome. I'm not quite sure, but like I said, I threw it out there randomly. I'm like, man, I really love Christmas movies. It'd be fun just to make one randomly. Sure, obviously.
Yeah, I agree. Man, I work on so many Christmas special like Hallmark movies. I just did this year. I just did Dolly Parton Christmas special.
Oh wow!
It's like about as far away as from like horror as you can imagine. But it was fun to work on. But yeah, no, I work on all kinds of Christmas stuff. So I would love to do like a Christmas, Christmas Creepy Dolls Christmas or something.
Oh God, yes. All right, I think that will end our interview. Thank you again for coming here, Harper W. Harris. If you want to see him, he has a website. What was that website again?
HarperWHarris.com.
Awesome. And yeah, this is a lot of fun. I love doing this. I'll be doing an interview next week with Sean Pink. I've had Sean Pink on my chat before, or chat. We've done interviews on Better Call Saul. I love Better Call Saul, and we did the season finale of that. But yeah, he'll be here next week. But again, thank you all, and interviews. You have a good night.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for having me, Flint.
No problem. Bye-bye.